Everyone is overreacting to the Hunter Greene injury because the Reds are still contenders for the NL Central, even without him.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I'm Stephen Offenbaker. He's Jeff Carr. And today's Locked On Reds podcast is brought to you by MLB The Show 26. Visit MLBtheshow.com/locked on and use the code locked on to unlock a pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Pre-order now, available March 17th on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. Rated E for everyone. On today's show, a little bit later, we're going to talk about Rece Hinds and what, if anything, he can do to reinsert himself into the chat, to get back into the conversation. Spoiler alert, it's going to take a lot. We're also going to talk about the number of Cincinnati Reds that are in Locked On's first ever top 100, a fun new exercise that we undertook here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We're going to tell you which Reds made the cut. But where we are going to start is not with Jeff Carr's overreactions, because normally that's where we start. But where we are going to start is with everybody else overreacting about the impact of Hunter Greene starting the season delayed and what that means for the Reds as they contend for the playoffs and for the division here in 2026. And Jeff, that's exactly where the conversation begins. Is it truly a massive impact? Because there's some people out there, some national talking heads, some sports books, FanDuel being one of them. Our guys, FanDuel, we love you. Thanks for being a sponsor all the time here on Locked On Reds. But I think they've even overreacted a little bit of the impacts Hunter Greene being delayed.
They have cut down the Reds over under from 82.5 to 80.5. Are you serious?
Take over.
I really
smash
the over. It's free money. I feel like people have looked at Hunter Greene and said he is the only thing holding this starting rotation together. Ain't happening, because this starting rotation is super deep. There's a chance he could be replaced as the Reds ace by a number of guys this season if he doesn't pitch at all. And there's a chance that the Reds could still go just as far, if not even further, than where we expected them to go, even with this injury. I think it's crazy that people were doubting them and putting the Pirates ahead of them in playoff odds and things like that with Hunter Greene. Now people are going to cut those playoff odds down because they don't know Andrew Abbott. They don't know Nick Lodolo. They don't know Chase Burns and Rhett Lowder, and we do. And we're going to tell you, like, we talked a lot about the starting rotation yesterday, Steve, and why we still think it is super good, even without Hunter Greene. But I think the other part of this is the improvement that the lineup is about to undergo. We talked about the addition of Eugenio Suárez ad nauseum after the Reds signed him at the beginning of the month of February. But when it comes to how this lineup moves, I mean, consider who replaces who in this. There are a lot of guys that are now going to be where they are, and they are in much better spots than the guys who were there last year.
Yeah, that's a fun exercise, is who's replacing who. I mean, think about lineup production. Basically, Gino replaces Gavin Lux. That's a huge, tremendous upgrade. Think about Sal Stewart replacing the at-bats that went to Santiago Espinal. That is a gigantic upgrade. And if Sal does almost nothing, it's a gigantic upgrade. So that is a tremendous upgrade. Elly De La Cruz with 2 legs replaces Elly De La Cruz with 1 leg. That is a tremendous upgrade. And Matt McLain, anything better than 0 wins above replacement, which is what he was last season with his struggles coming back from a year-long injury, anything above 0 wins above replacement is a tremendous upgrade in this lineup. That's already, listen, Jeff, we kicked around the idea of having a bold prediction segment in this show and decided against it. We're going to talk about the top 100 instead, but I'm just going to throw one out there anyway. The Cincinnati Reds could have 3 position players that are all-stars this year in Elly De La Cruz, Matt McLain, and Eugenio Suárez. And that's before we even talk about the pitching. So for FanDuel, who I really respect those guys, they get a lot of things right. They've got this one dead wrong, because if you believe that the Reds are going to be below 500, even without Hunter Greene, if you believe that, It's crazy talk. The Reds are going to be above 500. It's a freebie. It is a freebie. Throw some money at that if you play on FanDuel because it is a gimme.
Above 500, I still think they match up well with everyone in the division too, even without Hunter Greene. Andrew Abbott matches up well with the best pitchers on any of the teams. The biggest difference would be Paul Skeens against Andrew Abbott. But when you look at the Cubs, and I think Shota Imanaga is still their ace, I pick Andrew Abbott over that. You've got Brandon Woodruff with the Brewers. Is he healthy? That's going to be the big question. If he is healthy, that might be a push. That might be a little bit of advantage to Brandon Woodruff, but it's not a big advantage. And I really feel like there's so many people that continue to misunderstand this Reds team, whether you're looking at the pitching staff or the lineup. Everyone has it in their mind. Well, the only reason they made the playoffs last year was because the Mets just collapsed. Okay, I got you better.
They were still above 500. They were still above 500 even though the Mets collapsed.
This team scored below league average when it comes to runs per game, and they still won 83 ball games. That's how good the pitching staff was. And oh, by the way, they missed Hunter Greene for a big chunk of last season. So it's not as if we're talking about uncharted territory. Hunter Greene isn't the guy that made 32 starts last year. That was Brady Singer. Hunter Greene isn't the guy that made 29 starts last year. That was Andrew Abbott. Hunter Greene didn't even make 28 starts last year. That was Nick Lodolo. And the starts that were made by Chase Burns, we saw, other than the blow up in Boston, the potential that he has to be a top end of the rotation type dude. Rhett Lowder is not a 7th pick overall in the draft for no reason at all. Like, this dude's got a ton of talent. I think we're going to see that here this year. The Reds have the depth to fill in with those guys when they need to take a break with Brandon Williamson and Chase Petty. And the bullpen is much improved from last season, where they were a pretty decent group. They weren't like elite, but they also weren't bad either. Like, every part about this team has improved from last year to this year. And yet for some reason, everybody's looking at them as like, I don't know, man. Smash the over when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds.
Absolutely. Listen, last time we talked about some of the national predictions, there were a couple guys in the comment section. And listen, I read the comment section every day. Jeff, I know you read the comment section every day. We read these things, guys. We like to hear what you have to say. And there were a couple of you that had some lengthy comments about, well, why are you guys talking about this national stuff? You're just looking for clicks. You can be better than this. It's important to talk about what the national narrative is and just how wrong it is right now. I think people are just sleeping way too much on what this Reds team is going to be. I think they have not given this team a fair amount of evaluation. And I think that, and honestly, I think there's been some lazy evaluation at the national level where guys just pull up the stat sheet and look at what the numbers were last year and say, well, this is who the Reds are. That is not who the Cincinnati Reds are last year. There were a lot of people working their way back from injuries and problems. And there is going to be a lot of guys looking around halfway through this season at a national level going, where did these guys come from? Well, this is who they've always been. They just missed their analysis. That's what it is, folks. And that's why we're talking about it, because I don't want you to be confused. I don't want you to watch Jeff and I and be like, well, Jeff and Steve are saying this Reds team really has a chance to compete. But when I turn on ESPN, when I turn on the national shows, they're saying the Reds might not even make 500. Well, they're wrong, folks. And that's why we're telling you so. They do not have this right. This team is built to compete right now. And that's why it was such a big deal how the ownership and how the front office handled this offseason. They leaned into it a little bit because this team is poised to make that next move, that next step, and not only compete for the postseason, but compete for this division. I believe Tito Francona when he's saying now is the time to go. This team is built to go, and I'm ready for it.
For much of my lifetime, the Cincinnati Reds have been fun, but flawed. And I think that's where everyone is starting with this team this year. And there are far fewer flaws than they even understand. I feel like this team is just going to go, and there's going to be a lot of people that are surprised. But if you listen to Steve and you listen to me, you won't be. All right, Steve, speaking of surprising, not surprising, whatever that might be. I don't know. Coming up next, we'll tell you why the number of Cincinnati Reds in the Locked On MLB Top 100 is just about right. Today, I'm thrilled to be talking to you about our sponsor, MLB The Show 26. It's the greatest game in baseball, and it's back and bigger than ever in its newest installment. Of course, my favorite feature with any MLB The Show game is the franchise mode, because I take control of the Reds, and I always run them a lot better than they seem to run in real life. I don't know what it is. Maybe I know what's up. Or maybe it's just because I don't play on that hard of a difficulty. But look, you can create your own experience with your favorite baseball game, with your favorite baseball players as well, because you can also get into the diamond dynasty of it all. And in fact, you can go to mlbthe.show/locked-on and use the code locked-on, which is LOCKEDON, to unlock a special locked-on pack for use in Diamond Dynasty. Of course, you need an internet connection to get that done. You can pre-order MLB The Show 26 now through March 17th, because the game is released on March 17th. It's on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series S and X, and Nintendo Switch. MLB The Show is rated E for everyone. Thanks for making Locked On Reds part of your day, your first listen, your second listen, however many listens that you make us. We appreciate you so much for doing so. And look, you make us your team every single day. Now take it up a notch and go ad-free. Join the Locked On Reds Everydayer Club at lockedonreds.supercast.com. And you can get an ad-free feed in your audio podcast app, and you can join the members-only Discord chat where it's me, Steve, it's Tim Daniel from the Postcast, it's Chuck Freeman from Locked On Brewers, Sam Ober and Matt Cozy from Locked On Cubs. So many people are in there, all of the Locked On hosts, and you can talk some baseball with them every single day. Learn more at lockedonreds.supercast.com. All right, Steve, coming out today is the Locked On MLB Top 100 show over on the Locked On MLB feed, going through the 100 best players in Major League Baseball as put together by the Locked On MLB group of hosts. And the Reds got 5 guys in the Locked On MLB Top 100. That's right, 5 players. Now, 3 of them are pitchers, 2 of them are position players. You can probably guess all of them, because it's Elly, it's Hunter, it's Andrew Abbott, it's Eugenio Suárez, and it's Nick Lodolo. But I think it's intriguing that there are 5 people, and you can get granular with who's ranked around who. And as we look at this season, we are going to compare people who they are ranked around and next to Reds and things like that. But I think it's really awesome that we are seeing the top 3 of the starting rotation and the top 2 position players on this team all make the top 100, because it at least tells me that there's a sliver of hope in our Locked On MLB hosts nationally, as opposed to everyone else nationally, understanding how good this Reds team can be.
Yeah, and there's none of these that jumped out at me as being missing the mark. You're talking about top 100 in baseball. Let's just jump right into the first one that makes the list. There's one. You want to wait? Okay.
No. Right. There's one. I'll get to it.
Let's jump into the first one that makes the list. That's Nick Lodolo at number 95. I think that's about right. Nick Lodolo has showed us flashes of greatness. He showed us flashes of being really, really good, but he's also been inconsistent, and his availability is still a question. This list, starting with Nick Lodolo at number 95 and the rest of the guys as we work through this, every single guy on this list has the potential to be rated higher next season than they were rated this season, based on them turning a quarter, coming off of an injury, or improving upon their numbers, or doing a multitude of things that we expect them to do this year. I like Nick Lodolo here, though. He was able to, be the second most reliable starter for the Reds in 2025. He was able to be more available than he was in years past. I think he was number 2 in starts on the team behind Andrew Abbott. He made that
3 behind is Singer and Abbott.
Right? Singer and Abbott. He was a questionable relief pitcher there at the end of the season for a game, but Nick Lodolo was available and around. And I think as he continues to figure out how to pitch again, where he's not injuring, having the reoccurrence of that blister on his hand, getting a feel for those pitches, it started to come towards the second half to end of last year. I think he's starting off from that place this year. He's going to move up on this list next year, but I like him at 95. I think it's fair. I think it gives him room to grow, and recognizes in all of baseball just how good he is as a starting pitcher.
I'm with you. I'm excited on the fact that he even made the top 100 because I think that he is a known commodity within Reds fandom. I didn't think he was a known commodity nationally. I think that there's definitely some folks that have watched him pitch that understand his stuff. And if he can hit that like qualifying innings limit this year, if he can jump up in there with that, I think a lot more people are going to take notice of him and he's going to shoot up this list. The next guy is the guy that I got problems with. You say you don't have too many problems with rankings. Eugenio Suárez ranked at number 90 is ridiculous. And I think that there are some people that underrated him because they think, oh, he's a horrible defensive player, which he's not. We talked about this. He's below average, but he's not horrible. And there's some people that think about his low batting average. Steve, there's two things that I think people forgot about. Number one is the wonderful statistic that is the 49 plus homer club since 2019. Only 3 guys have done that multiple times. 2 of them are the top 2 guys on our Locked On MLB top 100 list that you will find out over on Locked On MLB, which is Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. And the third one's Eugenio Suárez. How the heck can you be talked about in a conversation with those 2 guys and not even make the top 50, let alone the top 60, 70, 80? Now he's number 90. Are you kidding me? The other part of this too, Steve, last year, league average. We talked about how league average when it comes to batting average was low. League average when it came to slugging percentage wasn't high either. The league line for slugging percentage was 404. What was what was Gino's slugging percentage last year?
526.
526. 122 points higher than league average. And we're saying that there are 89 players that are better than him? Yeah, that's insane. Absolutely.
I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm going to tell you what happened, Jeff. I think he got a decline phase penalty. They're looking at him heading into his age 34 season, changing locations again, not being the defender that he once was anywhere, questioning whether or not he can give you 40 plus home runs again. And they penalized him for it. Now, you and I both think that Eugenio Suárez is going to come here and put up those same numbers. And I don't think there's going to be a lot of drop off. In fact, I think he's going to get a GABP bump. I think some of his numbers are going to be better playing 81 games in Cincinnati versus playing home games in Seattle or in Arizona. I think he's going to get some offensive help in that regard. But I think the voters penalized him for being 34 years old and questioning whether or not he could put up 40 plus home runs again.
So what you're saying is Terry Francona should write a thank you letter to Locked On MLB for giving him all the bulletin board material he needs for Eugenio Suárez.
100%. 100%. Yeah. Just when you send it to Terry, don't address it to Coach Terry. Send it to the manager.
Some have said, yes. The next guy on the list is Andrew Abbott. He comes in at 84. I think that that's about right. Like, look, when it comes to Abbott and Lodolo, I am very happy that both these guys made the list. Mm-hmm. And some would say, well, Abbott's the opening day starter. Why wouldn't he make the list? Because I just don't think they're well known outside of Cincinnati. And you had this other guy on ESPN, and I'm blanking on his name now. I was going to say his name, and I forgot his name. Tells you everything you need to know about this guy, who says that Andrew Abbott is the luckiest starting pitcher in the major leagues. And I think that that's full of crap. But I still think that Andrew Abbott, being the absolute best starting pitcher for wins above replacement last year for the Cincinnati Reds, according to Baseball Reference, is something that is overlooked by the rest of the country. So I'm happy to see him here on this list, ranked at number 84.
That is a really disrespectful bad take coming from a national sports outlet. You look at Andrew Abbott now heading into his 4th season. He's made 75 big league starts. We're not talking about a small sample size. 413 2/3 big league innings with a strikeout per 9 that sits at 8.3 and a walk per 9 that sits at 3. You know, a quick and dirty cursory look says that's pretty darn good. You know what else says pretty darn good, Jeff? 11.7 in WAR over those 3 seasons. His WAR has gone up every year he has pitched at the big league level. It's gone from 2.8 to 3.3 to 5.6. That is a terrible take. ERA under 3 for the first time in his career last year, 29 starts. So he only missed a couple starts out of having a full season. Andrew Abbott's the real deal. And this is once again an example of somebody at the national level that does not know. I'm sorry, I'm going to say it. Does not know what the hell they're talking about. This is a terrible, terrible take.
You don't know ball.
They don't know ball. And I want to tell you that if we're talking about questioning maybe the rankings just a skosh of where the Locked On host placed him, maybe they missed a little bit on Andrew Abbott. I think he could have been a few points higher as well. They've got him at 84. I think he could have been between 75 and 80, and I would have been like, yeah, okay, that sounds fair. He still has room to grow. He's going to do things. I think maybe they rated him just a little bit low. Terrible, terrible take at the national level. You look at Andrew Abbott's statistics. We talked about him a lot yesterday, Jeff, just in the fact that he was named the opening day starter, and just what a great, humble team guy that he is. He's going to finish next year. He's another guy on this list that will place higher next season that he placed this year. He's going to get the exposure of being nationally, of being Cincinnati's opening day starter for 2026. He's going to get the headlines while Hunter Greene is out. There's room for him to grow as well. There's not a lot of drop off. His stuff's not quite as good as Hunter's, but for consistency and longevity through the course of a season, Andrew Abbott's the real deal. And I love that he is considered by the rest of the hosts on this network as being top 100 worthy. I love it.
Speaking of Hunter Greene, he is next on the list at 43. And as much as I would love to say this, that, or the other about it, with him being a potential injury, somewhere between missing months and the rest of the year, it's hard for me to say anything about him at this point, but he comes at number 43 on the list. And then, of course, the top Red, Elly De La Cruz, at number 30. And I kind of think that's about right based on what happened in 2025. But I also think that he's going to be much higher.
That's where, right. That number 30 is where one-legged Elly rates. That's where one-legged Elly rates. Two-legged Elly is going to get a much higher rating next season. And just, I know we brushed past Hunter Greene. I want to say that it surprises me that he's rated this high, given what the voters from the Locked On Network have heard about Hunter Greene over the last 4 or 5 months, which is he's not healthy. They're hearing all of that stuff that was going around about him not wanting to come back from injury and pitch. They're hearing, oh, the Reds are kind of looking to move him because they question his work ethic. That's all the stuff that was out there while these votes were going on. So for him to have landed at 43, that's kind of impressive and speaks to just how good his stuff is when he's actually on the mound. Right.
No, 100%, because we know what he is when he's healthy. It's just the biggest question is, how healthy is he going to be? And I think that Elly De La Cruz could easily be a top 10 player next year. And I don't think a whole lot of people would fight us on that. It's just he's got to prove it. And that's what he's going to do in 2026.
Well, you know who's not going to be in the top 100 next year? Probably. That is outfielder Rece Hinds, because he is having a hard time not only breaking through national attention, he's having a hard time breaking through with his own team and coaching staff. We're going to talk about Rece Hinds and what he can do to make a difference and make this team in 2026. We got that for you coming up next.
It's conference tournament time right now in college basketball, and FanDuel has got you covered for the best way to play when it comes to any conference tournament game. They've got the college basketball same game parlay profit boost. You got to check these out because it's going to take your picks and make them even more valuable. Of course, you can also check out the MLB futures, because right now everyone's going insane when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds. They've knocked them down. They were at 82.5 when it comes to over-under for season total wins. Now they're at 80.5 for season total wins. Smash that over. I cannot even believe that they knocked them down this much. This feels like free money. Head on over to FanDuel right now. Hit 80.5 over on the total wins for the Cincinnati Reds in 2026. And check out all of the great profit boosts for your parlays for college basketball. That's all over on FanDuel. They're the official sports book of Locked On.
It's tax time, but for a lot of us, the old way of doing taxes is, well, a lot. Trying to book an appointment that's not the most convenient, sitting in a waiting room with a stack of papers, emailing back and forth and wondering if they really get your situation. But this year, you're getting a major upgrade. Intuit TurboTax now has in-person locations nationwide. You can meet face-to-face with a real tax expert, and your documents get uploaded straight to your TurboTax app on the spot. And just like that, you're done. Your TurboTax expert works to get you every dollar you deserve while you get real-time notifications as you go about your day. It's the relief of walking in and meeting a real person and walking out knowing your taxes are being handled right. Head to turbotax.com/local to find a store near you and book your appointment today. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, we are on every single audio podcasting app platform that's out there. If you find one we're not on, you need us to be there, message Jeff. He can probably make it happen for you. That is also where the Everydayer Club lives. $5 a month, $50 a year, ad-free, uninterrupted Locked On Reds in the audio channel. Check it out today. The link is down in the show description. All right, Jeff, let's talk a little bit about Rece Hinds because he had himself a nice day yesterday. You know, a couple hits, did some things. By the way, hit the hardest hit in the history of Cincinnati Reds hits in the StatCast era, surpassing Elly De La Cruz's previous record that was set in a regular season game, mind you. But Rece Hinds bashed the baseball. And it makes you wonder, what did this guy got to do to get an extended look and compete with Will Benson and JJ Bleday? What does he got to do? And the sad answer in my mind is, Jeff, and I hope you've got a better answer than this. I hope you can talk me off of this position, because it's my position that there is absolutely nothing that Rece Hinds can do out in Goodyear to play his way into the conversation. The Reds have already decided he is a non-factor. He's a spare part. He's heading to Louisville.
If you had on your Locked On Reds bingo card for the day that there would be a mention of Ina Garten in here, well, then mark that spot. Because Ina Garten has this book about being ready when the luck happens. That's honestly what Rece Hinds has to do at this point, because he's not going to force his way onto the major league roster. He's not going to convince people that he deserves more playing time than Noelvi Marte, that he deserves more playing time than JJ Bleday or Will Benson or TJ Friedel or Dane Myers or Spencer Steer. You could argue that he might be below a couple of guys on the depth chart at AAA when it comes to who's getting the first call up in 2026. So whenever he gets his chance, because he probably will at some point, he's basically got to do exactly what he did the first time he came up here and just go crazy. The difference will be, can he hold on to that? Steve, he did this thing last year, and there's been some folks that have brought this up to me, and I kind of looked deeper into it, and they've got a point. He cut his strikeout rate fortuitously at the AAA level last year. Mind you, he's always been a high strikeout guy, no matter where he has played. In 2022, at AA, he struck out 41% of the time at AA. In 2023, he got the bump up to AAA. He struck out 38% of it. It was 37.9% of the time. I'm going to round up just for my own sake. 38% of the time. Then he gets that call up for a half second to the majors. And in 24 games, he still strikes out 31% of the time. Last year, in his tiny sample size in the major leagues, in 44 at-bats, he struck out 47.7% of the time. He was almost striking out once every 2 at-bats. And then he goes down to AAA and something changes. So for me, if there is anything that he can control, just keep doing that. Because what else he did around cutting that strikeout rate down was pretty impressive. He played 107 games in Louisville last year. He had 24 home runs. He slugged 563, got on base almost 36% of the time, and he cut his strikeout rate by 12% year over year from the AAA level. So if he keeps doing that, he's going to be on a list for when it comes to getting a call up and getting a chance. And then when he gets that chance, he's got to go crazy, because as of right now, I do not believe he can create his own chance. He just has to be ready when the chance is given to him.
And here's the frustrating thing, I think, for me. You know, I feel like you're right. There are other outfielders in Louisville that are considered ahead of him in the depth chart. If there's the call up, I think the first call up's going to Hector Rodriguez. I don't think it's going to be Rece Hinds. So
see, I disagree.
You because I really think
Dunn.
Okay. I don't think that Blake Dunn gives you what you're looking for. But I hope I'm wrong. I look at Rece Hinds And I really want him to get another opportunity. I think they're going to go with a Hector Rodriguez. Maybe even both of those guys, actually, Jeff. Maybe we're both right. Maybe both of those guys are ahead of Rece Hinds in the pecking order of call-ups.
Possible.
But I look at Rece Hinds, and I want to see him have a prolonged look, because I know this. If you have to put one of them out there in the outfield, Rece Hinds is going to play a better outfield for you than what we've seen from Hector Rodriguez. He has looked terrible in the outfield this year. He is running horrible routes. He looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. And Rece Hinds is better defensively. Now, Blake Dunn is probably, from a route running cover ground standpoint, better outfielder than Rece Hinds, but Rece Hinds has a cannon for an arm defensively. So I would like to see him get a look, Jeff. I was excited. I happened to be back in Cincinnati when he got that first call up and went on that home run binge. And that was a good time to be down at the ballpark. I want to see that again. I want him to get a look, because I really just don't think we know. I don't think that 2024 performance tells us a lot. It tells us some potential. And I don't think that 2025 performance tells us anything either. I just don't know how it is that he can't get a look. And I would like for them to give him a look.
You know, he did hit two more home runs than Santiago Espinal did last year. So there's that. But when it comes to him, I think that there is something to this spring train. And I'm not talking about the statistics. I'm talking about the fact that as roster cuts are happening, they have already sent Hector Rodriguez down to AAA camp. They have not sent Rece Hinds down to AAA camp. The only reason that I think that Blake Dunn gets the call is that he can play center field. Don't know that Rece Hinds can. He's more of a corner outfield guy. I think he would be a very risky play in center field.
I think you could play him there in a pinch. I don't know that I want to start him there for 20 games in a row, but he could play there a day. Yeah. He could cover it a day, or,
I mean, Jesse Winker did, so anybody can, right? Like that.
Buddy, this team put Tyler Stevenson in the outfield. You need to stop worrying about where they're going to play guys in the outfield, because they played Tyler Stevenson in left field.
Right. But I think that the point still stands that I just don't know when his call up is. And like, everybody's like, oh my gosh, look at this. 119.6 miles an hour. The hardest hit ball in the StatCast era for a Cincinnati Red. Holy crap. That's harder than Elly's home run in Cleveland. Oh, that's gotta be something. I don't think that one massive hit, albeit it was loud, I did hear it on the radio, but I don't think that one hit changes a lot of things for him. It's got to be the plate discipline, and it's got to be, are you ready when the luck happens? Because that's going to be what changes his career trajectory.
It's got to be terrible for him to have to tell himself his fate rests in being in the right place at the right time. And that is where we're going to wrap it up for today. Thanks so much for making Locked On Reds your first listen each and every day. For the audio folks, go check out Locked On MLB. Sully's got you covered over there with all of Major League Baseball from a national perspective. And former Red Mike Stanton's also got you covered with all of Major League Baseball from a player's perspective. Those are both in the Locked On MLB feed. Go check it out. For the video folks, we're going to send you over to Locked On's first ever 24/7 national YouTube channel, where all of the experts from the Locked On Network are talking ball 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Jeff and I are going to be back in your feed tomorrow, where we will continue to gather up all the news, the notes, the rumors, the reports, and the information to keep you locked on Reds every single day.
How easy was that?
Which part?